Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're really digging into a major shift in biopharma. We're looking at Pfizer's third quarter 2025 filings.
Right.
These documents basically lay out how a giant company navigates away from, those huge pandemic revenues and sets itself up for what's next.
Yeah, it's much more than just earnings. It's really their strategic playbook for this transition. Q3 2025, this is kind of the key moment. So we're going through the management calls, the actual 10Q data, all updated as of early November, trying to find what really matters.
What are the big priorities?
Well, it boils down to massive cost cutting, big bets on M&A for future growth, and, interestingly, some new ways they're funding R&D.
Okay, let's unpack that, starting with the financials, the Q3 scorecard. The headline number, $16.7 billion total revenue. That's down 7% operationally from last year.
Correct, compared to $17.7 billion in Q3 2024.
And adjusted diluted EPS was down as 87 cents. But that 7% drop, it sounds bad, but it's pretty much all down to the COVID stuff winding down, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, almost entirely the COVID story. You look at the two main products, Paxlovid revenue, $1.225 billion.
Which is down a lot.
Down 55% operationally. But, you have to look closer. A big piece of that drop is because a $442 million U.S. government stockpile purchase from Q3 last year didn't happen again.
Okay. So a one-off boost from 2024 makes the 2025 number look artificially lower on top of the actual drop in demand.
Exactly. It exaggerates the year-over-year decline. Lower infection rates play a part, too, of course.
Right. And Comirnaty, the vaccine.
Similar story, though less dramatic. Down 20% operationally, landing at $1.151 billion.
And that's tied to policy.
Directly. Specifically, the U.S. recommended it for a narrower group this year, so fewer eligible people. What were massive tailwinds are now, well, headwinds. Significant ones.
But what's really striking, I think, is how the rest of the business, the non-COVID part, actually performed despite those huge drags.
Yeah.
Where did they find growth to sort of offset things?
Yeah, that's the key takeaway. They executed really well on their established growth drivers. The Vyndaqel family, for that rare heart condition, ATTR-CM, up a solid 7% operationally. That brought in almost $1.6 billion just in the quarter. That's a really important specialty drug for them.
A cornerstone, basically.
Yep.
And newer products are contributing, too.
Absolutely. The migraine treatment, Nurtec ODT Vidura, that's a great story. Revenue jumped 22% operationally, hit $412 million.
Wow, 22%. Okay.
Yeah, and oncology overall really stepped up. You had Padcev, Lobrina, Xtandi, they all contributed significantly to the biopharma growth.
So they're managing that portfolio. Yeah. As older drugs like Ibrance face pressure, the newer ones are filling the gap.
Precisely. They're actively managing that life cycle, making sure the newer assets are pulling their weight to offset declines elsewhere.
Now, something that caught my eye. Cost of sales, it dropped by $1.1 billion. That pushed the cost of sales as a percentage of revenue down from almost 30%.
29.7%, yeah.
Down to 25.0%. That's a big efficiency gain. How did they pull that off when total revenue actually went down?
That is a really sharp observation because it shows they're not just passive observers here. They're actively managing the P&L. Two main things happened.
Okay.
First, the sales mix actually helped them. Less Comirnaty revenue meant they paid out less in that 50% profit share to BioNTech.
Right. So lower revenue from that specific product paradoxically helped the overall margin percentage because of the deal terms.
Exactly. It's a bit counterintuitive, but that's how it worked out.
Yeah.
And second, there was a technical accounting factor, $230 million less in amortization expense from inventory step-up related to past acquisitions.
Got it. So a mix of structural benefit from lower shared profit sales and just less accounting expense hitting that line item.
Correct. Both point to management actively tightening things up as the revenue picture changes.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating, I think. Let's pivot to the forward-looking strategy. This combination of aggressive external moves like M&A paired with just massive internal cost cuts. Let's start with Metsera, the obesity deal.
Right. This is clearly their big play to get much deeper into that incredibly hot obesity and cardiometabolic space. The deal structure itself is interesting. Well, the upfront payment is around $4.9 billion in enterprise value, but then they added these potential contingent value rights, CVRs.
Which means more money later.
If things go well. Exactly. Up to another $22.50 per share, potentially. But those payments are explicitly tied to hitting three very specific, very challenging milestones.
What are they?
First, starting the phase 3 trial for their combination therapy. Second, getting FDA approval for a monthly monotherapy. And third, getting FDA approval for the monthly combo therapy.
So they're paying for performance, essentially.
Yeah.
De-risking the big payout, unless the science delivers.
Pretty much. Paying for potential, but only if it translates into actual clinical and regulatory success.
But even with the CVR structure, $4.9 billion upfront, plus potentially huge future payments. I mean, isn't that a really high price for assets still in development in such a competitive field?
Right.
Are they signaling they feel behind?
They're definitely signaling urgency and aggression. I mean, you just have to look at the legal filing.
Yes, the lawsuits.
Right. Pfizer filed suits against Metsera and Novo Nordisk in October and November. They're alleging breach of contract and antitrust issues related to a competing bid for Metsera.
So they're fighting tooth and nail, even in court, to secure this deal.
They absolutely are. It shows how critical they view this entry point into the obesity market. They're willing to litigate aggressively.
And to help fund things like this, and just generally reshape the company, they're undertaking these huge cost realignment programs. The target number is just staggering, $7.2 billion.
Yeah, $7.2 billion in total net cost savings by the end of 2027. It really underscores how seriously they're taking this transition.
How does that break down? Where are the cuts coming from?
It's mainly two big programs. About $5.7 billion comes from what they call the Cost Realignment Program. That hits R&D and SI&A.
SI&A. That's selling, informational, and administrative. So marketing, sales force, back office functions.
Exactly. Big cuts planned there. And the other $1.5 billion is expected from a manufacturing optimization program focusing on their physical plant network.
But it's not just about cutting, right?
Yeah.
Especially in R&D.
No, and this is crucial. They're specifically earmarking $500 million of the R&D savings to be reinvested directly back into the pipeline.
To boost productivity.
Right. To try and make their R&D engine more efficient and focus on the highest potential projects. They expect that reinvestment to be fully in place by the end of 2026. It's strategic cutting and reinvesting.
We're also seeing some interesting new ways they're funding R&D, moving beyond just internal budgets, using external partners more.
Absolutely. This is a really important shift. Look at the 3S Bio deal they did.
The cancer drug.
Yeah, SSGJ-707, a bispecific antibody for lung and colorectal cancer. They paid $1.25 billion upfront for the global rights outside China.
And that hit the books immediately.
Instantly. It created a $1.35 billion charge for acquired in-process R&D, or IPR&D, in Q3. That's a direct, big investment in external innovation.
But then you have these other deals, like with Abingworth and Blackstone. Those look more like financing arrangements.
They are, but they're structured very cleverly. They're set up as R&D funding arrangements where Pfizer actually transfers a significant amount of the development risk to these partners.
How does that work? Why is that smart for Pfizer?
Well, so what, for you, the listener, is that because the risk is substantively transferred, the funding they receive from Abingworth or Blackstone actually reduces Pfizer's reported R&D expenses.
Ah, okay. So if the drug program funded by, say, Blackstone fails, Blackstone takes more of the financial hit on the R&D spend, not Pfizer.
That's the core idea. It allows Pfizer to pursue more projects potentially, while mitigating the financial downside if some of them don't pan out. It's smart risk management in a very risky business.
Okay, so that structure funds the science. Let's talk about the science itself now, the actual pipeline progress, and, well, setbacks in Q3. Start with the wins. The regulatory approvals.
Sure. There were several positive developments. ABRSVO, their RSV vaccine, got EU approval for a broader age range, 18 to 59. That's good market expansion.
Okay.
AdCetris got a new U.S. approval for a type of lymphoma, DLBCL. And the combination of Talzenna plus Xtandi was approved for a type of prostate cancer, MCRPC, for all patients, not just a subset.
So solid progress on expanding labels and getting existing drugs approved for more uses. Important for near-term revenue.
Definitely. These are the kinds of wins that help protect the current revenue base while the bigger pipeline develops.
But Q3 also delivered some pretty tough news from phase 3 trials, the kind that really impacts future expectations and even leads to write-offs.
Yes, and this is where understanding the nuance is critical. Take vepdegestrant, their drug for metastatic breast cancer. The phase 3 results were complicated.
How so? Successful or not?
Well, yes and no. It did meet its primary endpoint, showing a statistically significant improvement in progression-free survival, but only in patients with a specific mutation, the ESR1 mutation.
Okay, so it worked. but only for the ESR1 mTOR group. What about the broader group of patients in the trial, the ITT population?
That's the problem. It did not reach statistical significance in the overall intent-to-treat population.
Oh, and that significantly shrinks the potential market for the drug, right? From a potential broad therapy to more of a niche one.
Absolutely. It fundamentally changes the commercial outlook. A scientific success in a subset, yes, but a major disappointment in terms of the overall market potential they were likely hoping for.
And then there was inclacumab for sickle cell disease. That one was clearer, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was a clear miss. The phase 3 trial, THYV-131, simply did not meet its primary endpoint, which was reducing vaso-occlusive crises.
So what happens then?
Well, Pfizer removed the asset from their development pipeline table. And crucially, they recorded an intangible asset impairment charge of $260 million in Q3 related to this failure.
$260 million. That's the direct financial hit from that specific clinical trial failure.
Ouch. It's the reality of drug development. Sometimes the bets don't pay off.
Looking ahead then, what are the big programs expected to start pivotal trials soon? What should we be watching for as the next potential wave?
2 key ones to keep an eye on. First, danuglipron for chronic weight management. This is their own internally developed candidate, sort of their bet alongside the Metsera acquisition.
Right.
And second, their next-generation pneumococcal vaccine, the PCV25 valent version for adults.
When are those expected to kick off phase 3?
Both are anticipated to start their pivotal programs sometime after the second half of 2025. These are really important for that longer-term growth beyond COVID.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the external environment. These regulatory and legal pressures, they're a huge factor, especially the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, in the U.S.
The IRA is definitely casting a long shadow. It's forcing significant strategic adjustments. Just one piece, the Medicare Part D redesign, is expected to have a net unfavorable revenue impact for Pfizer of about $1 billion just in 2025.
$1 billion just from that one change. How?
It's driven by higher mandatory manufacturer discounts in Part D. While things like out-of-pocket caps might help patient access, the net effect on Pfizer's top line is expected to be negative.
And that hits their higher-priced drugs hardest.
Exactly. Drugs like Ibrance are feeling it already, contributing to a lower net price in the U.S. during Q3. And then there's the negotiation part of the IRA.
Like the price negotiation program. Which drugs are caught up in that?
Well, Eliquis was in the first batch of 10 drugs selected. Its new negotiated price will take effect January 1st, 2026.
So it's coming up soon.
Very soon. And more recently, 2 other major Pfizer blockbusters, Ibrance and Xtandi, were named in the next list of 15 drugs for negotiation. Their prices would take effect January 1st, 2027.
So guaranteed price cuts coming for some of their biggest products. That puts enormous pressure on the pipeline to deliver new things that aren't subject to negotiation yet.
Precisely. It makes pipeline success and launching new, innovative medicines even more critical. They also mention a voluntary agreement with the U.S. government on tariffs aimed at reducing uncertainty and encouraging U.S. manufacturing investment.
Okay. And quickly on the legal front, the Comirnaty lawsuits are still ongoing.
Oh, yes. It's a very complex global situation. They're facing patent infringement suits from Moderna, GSK, CureVac, among others, in various countries.
Any key updates?
There were some mixed results mentioned. A German court found infringement in March 2025. A UK court upheld one infringement finding in July 2025. But Pfizer also settled with Alnylam and CureVac, and importantly, the U.S. Patent Office invalidated 2 of Moderna's key patents back in March 2025. So it's an active battleground.
A constantly shifting landscape. And one bit of positive legal news. Zantac.
Yes, they noted that they've settled, or reached agreements in principle to settle, a substantial majority of the state court cases related to the over-the-counter Zantac product.
So putting a major piece of past litigation risk behind them.
Seems so. It reduces a significant legal overhang, letting management focus more on the core business and strategy.
Okay, so if we try to, pull all these threads together, what's the big picture message from Q3 2025?
I think the main theme is really this massive proactive course correction. They are absolutely tackling that COVID revenue cliff head on. You see it in the aggressive cost cutting. That $7.2 billion target is huge. And that internal discipline, that efficiency drive, is directly enabling the big strategic bets, like the push into obesity with Metsera, even with the legal fights, and the smarter risk-shared R&D deals, like with 3SBio or Blackstone.
So the focus has really shifted.
Decisively. It's moved from that emergency pandemic footing to really optimizing the pipeline, maximizing the commercial execution of their core drugs, and fighting like mad against the revenue headwinds from things like the IRA. It's a company in deliberate, significant transition.
So here's a final thought for you, the listener.
Yeah.
We see this huge cost realignment, right? $7.2 billion in planned savings. We also hear them commit to keeping debt manageable, targeting around 2.7 times gross leverage. The big question is, how quickly is that saved cash, that improved balance sheet capacity, get redeployed? Will the focus shift soon from just paying down debt and maintaining the dividend towards making another really large acquisition to lock in future growth? And maybe more provocatively, will the legal fight over Metsera, clashing directly with giants like Novo Nordisk, actually signal the practical limits of how aggressive Pfizer can truly be with M&A going forward? Could those legal and regulatory battles, rather than just the financials, be the real governor on their growth ambitions in the next few years?